Donate button. Okay, welcome to the after show. We're here with Jacque Hollander. Jacque, you want to take a little break, or you want to?
No, I'm fine. I'll start answering questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll take calls. And now, what about?
If there are any.
Yeah, well, no, we got some usual guys who call in every week, so.
Okay.
And ask great questions. So hopefully we will get some questions. Otherwise, I got questions for you. Forget it. My God. Now, James Brown's son, he's on your side.
Yes. That came to be, that really was real strange because he was against me. And I met him for the first time last November. And he's actually on a book tour right now. He did a book after spending from November to March, sitting down with me, looking at all the evidence, and he fired his lawyers and he separated from the daughters, and now is on our side.
So he actually did a book based on your information.
A lot of it, yes.
Okay,
yes.
And so now,
am I too lazy to do a book? Yes.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I know how you feel. I got a bunch of books in me. It's hard to get them out. Yeah. Now, was there any other sons? Yeah. How many sons and daughters are there?
He's got quite a few. It's which ones are which. The judge, there was supposed to be DNA on everybody, but the judge which said it was going to happen, it's 9 years later and it hasn't happened. The judge just whatever day he wakes up and decides what he wants to do, he does it.
Right. And so none of the kids are getting any money either.
They're making all kinds of deals from behind the thing. The son isn't. He went out on his book tour. Bless his heart. He has really, really struggled. Of all of them, I feel the utmost sympathy for him. And the trust was supposed to have paid for the college education. There was a separate trust set aside for the education of the grandchildren, and none of them have received any money. None of their grandkids have gotten their chance to go to college. So that is disgusting.
And the only ones who really got money are the two daughters who started off the litigation and had the mysterious death of the husband.
Yes, and the father, James Brown.
What father is that?
The death of James Brown is, James Brown was murdered.
Oh,
so,
right, okay, gotcha. Right.
Yeah, so you have to look up at all the people that, the things that have happened mysteriously through these years, the accidents and things while we've all been in court.
Well, who else? What other kind of accidents and stuff were there?
Well, there's been...
Buddy got run over by a truck?
Yeah, and almost died, and... there's just been some children where people walked up to the door and they were, a child was blown away. There's been it's been very serious and very sad.
Okay, well, the other child that was shot, was there any investigation on that? Like maybe it was like drug related or something else, or you think it was related to this?
I heard that someone tried to say it was because someone tried to rob him for a joint. I don't know anybody that robs anybody for a joint.
Now, you were saying that James Brown hated Mick Jagger.
Yes, he did.
But somehow Mick Jagger wound up producing this film.
Yes.
Did they have any kind of personal beef with each other besides James Brown thinking he was a devil worshiper?
No, he called him the son of the devil, but what was very interesting, he would never let his music be played. And on Good Day America, Mick Jagger sat down with, I think it was Matt Lauer. Please don't quote me on that. It was one of them on, the Today Show. And they were interviewing him about this movie. This was in March of this year. And they asked him, was he close to James Brown? And he said no, that he had met him once. And that Mr. Brown was very rude to him, that he had tried to shake his hand, and James Brown wouldn't shake his hand and turned around and walked off. And then, of course, at the premiere the other night with Reverend Al Sharpton, they asked Mick Jagger again, was he friends? And he said, Oh, he was always wonderful to me, always courteous to me. We never had a problem. We were very good friends, and we never had a problem. And I'm sitting there going, which is it, Mr. Jagger? You start in March, and he wouldn't even shake your hand, and now at the premiere, y'all are good buddies. So, I mean, come on. You've got to sell his movie. There's been nothing but commercials pushing this movie 24 hours, night and day.
Yeah, there's huge promotion for this movie. Now, but has Mick Jagger produced any other movies?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of either.
And I am pretty sure there was probably someone else doing it. But I don't know. Looking at it last night, there is a very good possibility he did produce it because it was horrible. So I got to say, maybe he did do it.
Who was the director on the movie?
Tate Taylor.
Okay, I never heard of him. Okay.
He did the movie Help and all these great movies.
Help with the Beatles?
He did some really... No, I may be wrong on it, but he's done like #1 movies. I mean, Oscars. These guys they came in with the best. Even had Opie. Ron Howard, and this is another thing. I've always loved Opie.
Yeah.
Always loved him. And I'm sitting there thinking, Buddy Dallas and I were sitting there talking before this movie came out, and here they do this movie on James Brown, but they don't come to anyone. They didn't even go to Daryl, his son. They just left everybody out. Except they didn't even talk to Buddy Dallas, his lawyer of 28 years. They even cut him totally out of the movie. We're not even mentioned in the movie. It's like we didn't even exist. I mean, this is the most insane thing you've ever seen. Really. I mean, how do you do a movie when you don't talk to anybody who was there and you pay Tommy Ray, the woman who claimed to be his wife at the very end, who really wasn't his wife, you pay her to be on, and she wasn't even in there in the 80s and all these years. What does she know? You don't even talk to his son. You don't talk to his lawyer of 28 years. You don't talk to his victim, but you do portray him in one scene, and that's in the beginning. You show a joint laying on a table where he's lacing something. And then you show him at the very end high, and you show him out of his head, but you don't explain it. It flips back and forth so much, and you just can't even follow it.
Did they show the incident?
Mick Jagger probably did.
Where he pulled did they show the incident with the shotgun and the multi-state police chase and all that stuff?
They showed a second of it, but it didn't make a lot of sense because they don't explain it. It's not even explained. It's just like to me they were trying to copy the Ray Charles movie.
Okay.
They had the little boy, and they keep showing him, and if I didn't know better, I'd think it was the same little boy. Only I know that boy's probably grown up. But they're showing this little boy, and they're flipping from the little boy to these events, and then they're flipping back, and then they're flipping, and they've got Dan Aykroyd in all the scenes, and it's just really, I gotta say this about the young man, though, that played James Brown, and I know that kid probably gave 100% to portraying him.
Right.
But he just didn't look like James Brown, and he didn't, he admits to the world that he didn't want to do it. He admits to the world that he felt like he couldn't do it, and I will admit to, in fairness to Mr. Bronson, that it would take years to learn his dancing. It would take years to learn his mannerisms. It would be an enormous undertaking for any actor to try to portray James Brown. And so I will say the movie may not have been there, and he may not have they may not have portrayed the truth, but Chadwick Bronson portrayed, I will say, that kid went in there, he was basically too young to play him, and he wasn't as heavy as him, but he gave it his all, and you could see that.
Yeah, but it doesn't even look like they got the hairdo right.
They didn't. None of the hair.
Yeah,
but
wait a second.
Wigs.
But how are you going to copy that hair? Only two guys in the whole world could ever pull that hair off, and that was Al Sharpton and James Brown. You know.
Well, and Al Sharpton was a paid person on this movie.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and you're sitting there saying, how could they not do the hair right?
What did they? Was Al Sharpton portrayed in the movie?
No, he was not.
No, just the briefcase sitting there once in a while, right?
Which is, I'm sitting there thinking a rather peculiar thing, because he's done so many books and all this other stuff, and about it, but yet he wasn't in it. And I don't think he wanted to be, because that really opens the can of worms.
Yeah.
You see, he doesn't want this worms. He doesn't want anyone to touch those years, because if they do, and of course, me and other people, the worms are going to come out. And worms can always get you.
I'm surprised
they can always come out.
I'm surprised more people didn't come out about his whole thing about being a rat and wiretapping people, because they got all the police reports, and some of it even led to criminal cases. So there's no doubt about that. And I'm surprised more people didn't come out and talk about that. I came out and talked about it, because I'm sure I'm on those tapes as well.
I'm sure you are, and I'm sure James Brown, and I look at all the arrest of him, and I look at the when he had to go to New York because of Mr. Sharpton, and he, I look at all the stuff that was going on, and then you look at the Tawana Brawley case, and that is a real horrible thing where Mr. Sharpton knew full well that Stephen Pagonis didn't know it, and Mr. Sharpton had fully, James Brown knew that the Reverend had fabricated it to try to build his civil rights movement.
Well, let me ask you a question. Then, did you ever talk to Stephen Pagonis about the situation where he was in that bedroom with the guy, and the guy shot himself later on, or while he was in the room?
It was. I don't talk to Stephen about that. That was his best friend.
Okay.
But Stephen Pagonis has suffered. He has suffered beyond words, and so have I. And I think it's time that Reverend Sharpton and Tawana come up, and he won a huge judgment against them all. Reverend Sharpton, I think it was Johnny Cochran that paid off Sharpton's part, and
right.
He won something against Tawana Brawley, and of course she's been running and living under assumed names, and they finally got her into court, and she was forced to pay a little bit of money up front, not anything of the massive amount of money that she owes, and she was supposed to, I think, pay $400 a month, and of course she's on the run again.
Yeah, there was some interesting stuff with her too, because I know that she was under a lot of government harassment there for a while, like even they would stop her at the airport, and all kind of weird things were going on with her as well. So you don't think there was something more that went on with that whole case other than just a kid making up a story? Stephen Pagonis has made the offer to Tawana Brawley to please come forward and sit down with him and to please, there's a lot of stuff with the whole mess. And, of course, you've got Reverend Al Sharpton at that time as an FBI informant. Right.
Clearly, here he is working for the government, and here's all of this stuff going on, and that was happening to me, that was happening to them up there. I mean, it was like the North and the South caught between, I felt like I was caught, and I always have, between the North and the South. I really do. If I ever had a book, I think that would be the title of it.
Well, how did you become friends with Pagonis?
Well, I had known him, and I'm not going to get into too much on that, but
okay.
he has suffered terribly, and he still is today, and I'm not sure he'll ever get over it. And I have seen Reverend Sharpton's comments to that, and it's always, I think it is, I can't remember her name, a reporter, was it Leslie, is it Leslie Gunn or Leslie, I can't think of her name, but she sat him down and she said, but you did say this, sir. You did say this, Mr. Sharpton. You did say this. And he goes, but there's still that little thing inside of me that says it's possible he did it, because I don't know he didn't do it. Well, Mr. Sharpton, I'm going to stand here today and I'm going to say to you, where was your butt when I was forced by the courts to do a freaking concert and I had a police boycott against me to help your daddy? Where were you? Where were you when Adrienne Brown got her teeth knocked out 4 separate times and you're running all over the country to all these things where people are getting hurt? Why weren't you taking care of business at home? Where were you when I got raped? Where were you? Why didn't you open your mouth when I accused your daddy of raping me? Why did you sit back through that? You didn't open your mouth. And now here we're dealing with a trust worth hundreds of millions of dollars that involves your so-called daddy who left you out of the will. Why aren't you stepping in that? I have some big questions for this man, and I don't think he can really answer them.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really puts him on the spot and makes him answer anything. I think he'd be pretty much as a free ride. Okay, we're joined by Christian Wallace, who's also going to be a host coming up on CJ Mars Radio. Chris, you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, how are you guys doing?
What night are you starting over there?
Wednesday nights at 9. How's my mic, by the way?
You sound good. A little deep and a little sexy there, man. I don't know if I can stand this. Okay.
He does. He has a radio voice.
Yeah, right? Oh, I tell you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, man.
Oh, it's just really interesting stuff. And James Brown, boy, such a huge icon, American icon. And I think he was 60 years that he was performing, pretty much.
He was performing, actually, when he was 70, yeah.
Yeah, and all of the stuff that you were talking about, and then with the movie just coming out, and I think it was really interesting. And, with the PCP, the thing is that it's very, people, always talk about how they think that they can fly and, they jump off of buildings
yes.
and things in the trees, he was saying were rubber and they would bend. Well, it's kind of the sensation, or what happens is that you feel like, your spatial awareness is off, and, that's just, I think, speaks to the madness, or the I don't know what the word would be, but, he was definitely not himself. But at the same time, I was just running it down on Wikipedia, and I was looking at some of his drug policy with his band, and they were saying how he was supposedly very anti-drug and had like a zero tolerance policy.
Yes,
right.
Fire them and fine them.
So do you want to talk about that a little bit? Was he maybe being hypocritical, or did he have a relapse? Did he, was he using at the beginning, or did he get into drugs and it got heavier as he got older?
Like I was saying in the beginning, when I met him, he was 100% lucid. And this formaldehyde, I've never even heard of anybody smoking formaldehyde along with PCP, but it became a very serious thing, and he was lacing cigarettes with it. They would actually take the cigarette tobacco out, and how I knew about this was Adrienne Brown showed me, and they were pouring the liquid onto the cigarette stuff and packing it back, and then just smoking it. And what I learned about this was he was actually putting it in lotion and in Afrin bottles and marking the Afrin bottles with dots, because He would snort it through Afrin bottles, and he was putting it in cream. And PCP is odorless, and it's colorless, and it's liquid, and it can go into anything. And an innocent person could be drugged without even knowing it.
Right. I just, getting back to, and it was such a emotional, story, and the way that you told it. I work in a drug treatment facility, so I counsel and I help people, and I understand, and a lot of people, that's not a drug that many people come in with issues with, but it's definitely really serious, and you got to be really out of control, when you're on it. So I don't doubt that he was, crashing into, his car into trees and
horrible.
at the mouth.
I mean,
yeah, it must
horrible.
have been out of this world.
I had a guy that worked for me. His name was Pete. Pete the Nut, we used to call him. Okay. And he was they locked him up in South Beach Psychiatric Center in the homicidal, suicidal ward. Okay. And I went in there to visit him and bring him some stuff, bring him some sodas and snacks and things like that, and go in there and pray with him. And, the doctor in there told me, he says, you look around, you see this room? He says, half of these guys were on PCP. And it drove him crazy. Well,
I mean, I'm not saying don't go see the movie. I think you should see the movie. I think it is, if you don't know James Brown, and very few people knew him personally, I think it's a very good movie to see. It's definitely not a PG-13 movie. There isn't any really sex or violence in it, so I don't know how it got that rating. It's more like a Walt Disney movie.
It turns out the director directed that movie, The Help, about the maids.
Right.
Yeah, right. Okay, and there's another one too. My producer was telling me about. It was a really big movie too.
He's had a lot of big ones.
Yeah, Winter's Bone. So yes, it should be a really good director.
Yes, you need to see the movie, but you just won't see and really see the truth. You won't see maybe they chose, they don't want the world knowing. They don't want his legacy, few people know the real inside. It's just very sad.
So
after this,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
After the success of, the Ray Charles movie, I think it kind of, that was what they were maybe trying to follow up with, and sort of along the lines of that, and all of the acclaim that movie got. And, even that movie left out a lot, and that maybe wasn't very flattering. And, there was a lot of issues afterwards with the will, and some of the, people that were left out, and where some of the money went.
I loved the Ray Charles movie. I saw it, and I had actually met Ray Charles. And one of the things that I really loved about the Ray Charles movie is they just didn't sugarcoat it. They brought out the heroin use for years, and they showed how it afflicted him. And like you say, you worked in a treatment center, and this is what the young kids, this was one of Mr. Brown's big things, like you were talking about, was to kids, was don't do drugs, don't drop out of school, and here he was himself battling some very, very horrible demons that were really destroying people's lives.
Let me ask you a question. Now Howard Stern, he's a huge James Brown fan. Have you ever thought of contacting him and trying to get on his show and telling your story?
You asked me that the other day, and I've always wanted to get on the Howard Stern show, and I've never gotten to get on the Howard Stern show.
Okay.
So no, I wouldn't just pick up the phone and call Howard Stern and go, "Hey, talk to me." No, I wouldn't do it.
Well, okay. Maybe I can help you get on there. Let's see what we can do.
Okay, yeah, get me on the Howard Stern show.
Yeah. Hey, we'll both go on. I need to get on there again. Okay. Yeah. Now, what about, next week I'm doing a show, right? And it's about Robert Evans, the producer of The Godfather and all that kind of stuff, and he was producing that movie, The Cotton Club, and and in that, you're familiar with that story about the guy Roy Radin, who got murdered?
No, I when you brought it up, I think when I was looking on your thing, I read just a couple of snippets of it, and I really don't know that much about it, so I'd probably be, if you asked me anything, not able to answer your question, to be honest with you.
Okay, because Roy Radin used to do like this old-time vaudeville tour, and you had a lot of guys. I was just wondering if James Brown was ever involved in being produced by Roy Radin. I guess no, huh?
Couldn't answer that question. That one's way over my head.
Gotcha.
I can only answer stuff that I lived, and if I wasn't a part of it, then I can't answer it.
Well, then who else did you meet besides like Ray Charles and Michael Jackson?
I've met them all. I've met them all. I mean, when you're in this business, you meet people and you don't even know you're going to meet them. I'm still doing music. I just finished the theme song for Find Me Too, for missing and murdered kids, and I've done 2 musical things for the circus, which everybody knows is very close and dear to my heart, and the elephants and saving the Asian elephants, and I am known to play with the elephants and the camels and travel with the circus. Yeah. I am a kaleidoscope.
Wait a minute. You also
yes.
you traveled with a circus before James Brown?
No, I've always been around and affiliated with the circus. I just finished doing 2 songs for the Carson and Barnes Circus, and if you Google me, you can see the video of me with the elephants, and you can see one of my songs and stuff like that.
What are you doing with the elephants? Like elephant tricks?
No, I'm actually talking about the elephants that are going to be that my song is raising money for across the United States, and it's to protect the Asian elephant. And I love the circus, and PETA is always out after us because they're saying we're abusing the animals, but in all honesty, they're very loved and they're very pampered, and I wish I could live as an elephant under these people because they're really loved.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, because you do hear all the stories about the animal rights activists always complaining about the elephants at the circus. So now,
yes.
Do you actually travel with the circus from town to town?
Yes, I've done it. Yes, I do their PR, and I also was a part of my song that is "I Am the Circus," and it is sung by a little trapeze performer, and I produced it and wrote it on her. And it talks about the hard life of the circus, and it's in the show. And this year I just did the grand opening called the Big Top Ragtime Circus Ball. And it's out on the road right now, and I had to come off to endure the James Brown saga again. I mean, it's like every time I get my life to a point where, I've got the court case down there and it goes on and it's been going on for 9 years, but I start to live my life, and I start to get back in to the groove of a life without the horror. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later with the whispers of the movie, and then, of course, the months of the movie, and then, of course, no one is talked to, and then you wonder, are they going to show the rape? Are they going to show the insane 88 years? And then you start finding out that all the people that are on the daughter's side are involved in the movie, and the people that want the truth out are not involved in the movie. So you pretty much hold your breath like I did, and I was very blessed that people that worked, my counselors and stuff, didn't want me going to the movie. And
yeah, you told me.
and someone made sure that I got a free seat in a empty room to watch it, and it was difficult. Even today, I keep having these little flashes of some facial features that Chadwick Bronson did with up close of his face, and when he was kind of crazy, and that keeps flashing up in my face and causing me to remember.
Well, when we were talking, I think it was either yesterday or before the show today, you're not portrayed in the movie, but you said that there were some lines in there, things that you had said?
Yeah, I had for years said to everybody that James Brown had said, you know, the United States government is afraid of me because if I can start a riot, if I can calm a riot, I can start a riot. And Reverend Al Sharpton had said that in a PBS special. He had said, James Brown said that, you know, he goes, the FBI, and this is really odd now. Now that I look back talking to you, he was on a PBS special of James Brown's life, and he was the interviewer, and he said, you know, the FBI and our United States government is afraid of James Brown. And they said, why? And he looked into the camera and he said, because if he can calm a riot, he can start a riot. So the FBI is afraid of James Brown. And I thought to myself, sitting there last night, I thought, boy, Reverend, here you were working for him. Nobody knew more how afraid the federal government was of James Brown than you.
Yeah, I would love to hear all those Al Sharpton tapes, man. I could just imagine what's on there. But describe describe just what the riots were. It was when Martin Luther King was shot. That's where there were riots. Where in D.C. was it?
Yes.
And that those are the ones.
Oh, you mean where Martin Luther King was shot?
No. I want to know what were the riots that James Brown stopped?
They were in Alabama, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Okay. Because Howard Stern always talks about it. And he talks about Petey Greene and I always thought it was Washington D.C. where he came to stop those riots.
And it may have been up in New York. I don't go back into all that, you know.
Right.
So I mean, I know it, and then it's clouded with, the man has done so much, you know, and of course he discussed it, you know. He discussed with me, many things, you know. Buddy Dallas put into his affidavit that I was the keeper of his conscience, you know, because he shared so much, and I never went public with it. I've never, even when I was taking him to the hospital and the doctors would tell me what they knew about his brain and everything, I never went public with it. And all of my documents and everything, they've never gone public, you know, until the New York Post the other day released some pictures. No pictures had existed on the internet of me and James Brown.
Really?
In all these years, no. I never released one, never let people see them, and even got into court one time, and a lawyer said, well, if she was this and that, why is nothing on the internet? And, of course, I never let it go. Back in the 80s, you could protect your privacy. You didn't have the computers and, you know, downloading and all this, and I didn't feel my life. I've never felt my life really belonged much to the world, because I always felt like I never had much of a life, because the world judged me so harshly with this rape, and you know, there's always going to be the he said, she said, and did this really happen, and did this happen, and I've taken a lot of abuse. I mean, I've taken a lot of cruelty, and I've cried myself to sleep over it, and there's been days that I didn't feel like I could live another day. And, you know, it took the years. My life has been affiliated with James Brown for 30-something years, and I've never gotten away from it. And sadly, someone said to me the other day, when you die, Jackie, unfortunately, you will be linked to James Brown. And I thought, wow, that's true. When I die, they won't talk about the kids' charities, and they won't talk about what I've done. It will just be the girl that was, you know, raped, or the girl that was, a part of James Brown.
Yeah.
And that's very sad. That is very, very sad.
Jackie?
Because yes.
Because this might, I don't know if Ed ever had another guest where we could actually ask this question, or he could ask this question. Like I was talking about, or you were saying you liked the Ray Charles movie because it was, showed some of the, real. It was very in detail. But with these biopic type movies, with these people that are now, whether you want to be connected to them or not, they're iconic. What is it like to go and see a movie about someone? Like, how accurate is it, and how surreal is it to go in and see someone portraying him?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share a little secret with you, okay? And normally I wouldn't do this. But I had been called by Inside Edition. And they wanted to do an interview the other day, but they wanted me to take them to where I hid a lot of the memorabilia. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. So I had actually loaded my car up with memorabilia, okay? And I was taking it back to the place where it is hidden, okay? Well, I just pulled in and went to the movie, and here was all of this James Brown memorabilia sitting in the car. And I'm sitting in there watching the movie. Now, that is, and I'm thinking to myself, am I just dumb? Am I just dumb that I would leave the car and go watch a movie? Yeah, I did it. And then, of course, later I took it and put it back all in, but it was very weird sitting there and thinking, did I survive all this and live to tell it? I mean, did I survive this? Is this real?
Yeah, is it really happening? Right.
Yeah, because you don't look at, when I was working with him, you don't at that time, I don't think realize, when we did shows and we walked off and there was police escorts and there was always security, I didn't really look at it like that. I mean, I was just there to do what I had to do, and then I would leave. When we went to visit kids at the hospital, of course, the nurses would come running down the hallways, and they weren't running after me. They were running after him. But I didn't really look at it that way. I just kind of was like, well, this is kind of pain. We got to get in to see this kid. But, you don't look at it like you're sitting with a world icon, because you get to know that person, and that person's just a human being. And so he was just a human being to me, and I didn't see the iconic stuff around him, and I don't think I really even realized it until long after he died.
Well, what about like on Saturday Night Live when Eddie Murphy would do the impersonation? Like when you saw that, like, yeah, it was good, right? Like,
yeah.
What did James Brown think about it, first of all?
He loved it.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
He did love it. He did love that. Now, that I can tell you, and there were things about him that he loved. He loved his country. I'll tell you that. He loved the United States. For a man that fought so much law enforcement and the government and everything else, he loved his country. He was a very patriotic man. And for a man that had so many demons inside him, he was a very religious man. On my recordings with him, that is part of the evidence in my case, on my masters, on the songs, every song I did with him, I would always say, for the kids. And he would turn around and say, God bless you. And you hear that before every song. Yeah.
Living in America, from that, Rocky moment, and the fourth one, I believe, the installment. And that was such a huge scene at the time, and kind of towards, you know, the latter part of his, you know, his career. And I think a lot of people that are younger might remember that, you know, the later.
And I was there through that, the living in America, and to me it was just part of the day-to-day stuff. You know, I mean, we were busy doing things for kids, and you know what I'm saying? It was weird. I mean, the whole time was always surreal. Every day was filled with just constant catastrophes. I mean, you lived with your bag packed, waiting for a limousine. It was insane. It was insane. I didn't know if my call would come at 3, if Mr. Dallas would call me at 12 midnight, at 6 a.m. in the morning, but I always knew that call was coming, and you were always on hold for the fires. They never stopped. Buddy Dallas has been accused of forcing James Brown and from basically stealing from him, and I can tell you this. Buddy Dallas never stole a penny from James Brown. He built him. When James Brown didn't have money, he bought his home for him. When the IRS was going to take it, Buddy went and bought it off the auction block with his own money. Buddy Dallas literally was the light of James Brown, and it just it's really sad. I mean, to see no one, and they'll never be able to turn the lights on. Mick Jagger can bring all these people in, and this man out there that's now running the trust and all this other stuff, they'll never be able to turn these lights back on. The only person that can do that is Buddy Dallas.
Yeah, well, Buddy wasn't portrayed in the movie at all, right?
Nope. Not at all.
Okay.
They portrayed all kind of other people, though, but they didn't portray Buddy.
Well, were there people in the movie that didn't exist at all?
I was looking at the movie going, when did this happen?
Right.
You know, I mean, it was a continuous going, okay. You know, James Brown was born in a brothel. You know, they didn't really put that in there. I mean, and he took care of his father, and he took care of his mother. I mean, and that's not it. It makes it kind of look like the father disappeared, and he never saw his dad again, and that's not true. So, I mean, he took care of him, and it's weird. I mean, it's like, what in this is true? You know, what part of this is true? The high-speed chase, yeah, but they don't explain it. They just show him getting in a truck, and oddly enough, the truck, I know that truck so well, okay, because he drove it. He drove that little truck all over the place. You know that thing is sitting on his front yard still to this day?
Really?
Yeah. Still on his estate. And what's really even sicker is that, you know, they're trying to, the daughters want to have it a James Brown museum, but they've sold everything, and you see stuff going up on eBay, and, you know, it's just a mess. I mean, you talk about an octopus with tentacles, this is it. This is your ultimate, what is the story, The Rich and Famous, and the Greed? Who was it? Dominic Dunn did it. This is the classic thing: murder, greed, sex, drugs, blackmail, fraud. It's just, that's what it is. I mean, it is the Godfather.
Yeah, it sounds like the Michael 100%. Jackson family too. You know, all the skullduggery that goes on, the father stealing all the money, and you know, all that craziness that went around that family as well. Well,
yeah, I mean, you know, and that's another story in itself. I mean, the guy gives him milk, puts him to sleep with propanol, and he only goes to jail for 3 years. I mean, anybody else would be in Sing Sing, still clicking their little cup going, can I please get a phone to speak? This doctor's already back out on the street.
And complaining about it, too.
Yeah. And I mean, he killed him. And he says he didn't, but I mean, come on, Doc. You don't just go around carrying big vials of propanol and carrying them in a house and juicing up your client or your patient and go talk on the telephone and he croaks. And you want to say you didn't do anything? I mean, you violated all the, laws of a medical practice, and you should be in jail, and you still should be there. And the man still should be sitting behind bars. Because there's more to that, too.
Right. Didn't he leave owning half of Sony and generating, $1 billion and, all those, I mean, those two guys alone in a room together easily comprise so much influence and money in the last 40 years
Kurt
of
Cobain,
American
too.
Music, and Kurt Cobain as well, that's right. But, Ed and I usually see people that are usually yoke up like with this kind of people that the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, they kind of get in with groups that would be detrimental to be around, and it seems like James Brown was kind of the opposite of that. He was in Blues Brothers, and he portrayed himself as someone who loved America and someone who was spiritual, and at the same time, he was sort of his own worst enemy.
He had, I think, what the world didn't know, because back when I got raped, I couldn't even get it broke. I couldn't get that story broke for anything. Nobody wanted to hear it. They were throwing me outdoors. They were looking at me like I was a crazy girl beating on their door.
But the thing is, that was after the big shootout with the cops in the truck.
They still didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear anything. They didn't want to hear. You couldn't get. James Brown had the biggest PR people in the world. You couldn't get anything broke.
Yeah.
The media would look at you and say, you're crazy. And I'd go, okay, but now here it is, years later, and it's all coming out, and I get calls all the time from a media person that walked away from me going, I'm really sorry. I wished I had listened. Yeah, you know what, media in America, wake up. We got problems in this country. Wake up. Give us the real news. When somebody comes in your door and says, hey, I got proof of this, take the time to listen. Don't say, shoot me an email, I'll look over it, and if we've got time, we'll get back to you. This is the problem with our country today. And I will say this, and normally I won't, but this is our problem right now with freedom of speech. We are losing it. We are losing our freedom of speech. We are losing our ability to be heard. We are everything is being squashed and hidden and put into closets. And we, the people, like in this trust, we, the people who pay the taxes, we, the people who put these political figures into office, should be able to walk into that AG's office and into the Attorney General's office and say, open the records of this trust and let us see how much money you people, hundreds of millions of dollars, have squandered, and not to the poor and needy, not one penny. You have a problem when that is happening, and they're saying you can't know. We're not going to let you know how much money has been spent. Who are they? That is a human being's right to make a will and to say, when I die, this is how much money I want to leave to the world. This is how much money I want to give to this person. And no one has the right to say, hey, we're not going to accept your will. We're going to designate the money to go where we want to, and we're going to handle it our way. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you've got a trust, you better think about it. because what's happening over there in South Carolina is showing Americans don't make a trust because they don't have to follow it. Don't make a will. Your will is worthless if you have a lot of money.
It is true, man. These judges have too much power. They're out of control. And there's so much corruption going on in the U.S. court system. It's not even funny.
It's sick. It's sickening.
Yeah, and like you
said, is even more sickening.
And like you said about how the media, you're right. If you're a big star and you have a big, powerful press agent, it doesn't matter what the truth is and what the story is. I've got other stories like this I've worked on, like Shirley Tripp, who was involved in prostitution in Alaska with Todd Palin, all covered up. My client Brittany Jones, who was not raped, but was attacked in that hotel room by Charlie Sheen, and had to hire. He was covered in blood and glass all over the apartment. All these stories, it gets so much stuff gets covered up in the news.
Yeah.
Even cases that I've worked on during the daytime, and you think, what's going to be a big story tonight, And then the press agents get involved, and they cover it up because they have that power to do it to protect their clients.
Well, see, James Brown, all of his commercials went for Seneca, I Feel Good, X-Lax, and these TV stations were like, we're not going to talk to you.
Right.
We're going to talk about him. He's getting the Nobel Prize. He's getting here he was a convicted felon, and he's standing up there receiving the Kennedy Award. And Reverend Al Sharpton, a couple of weeks before, they couldn't give him the Kennedy Award with him being a convicted felon. He turns around and goes in, and are you ready for this? He was given a complete. He was exonerated of all his federal charges. That meant everything from wife beating, brutality, shooting at police, everything. He was exonerated, and he was given the Kennedy honor.
Wait, now that was done on the federal level or the state level?
The federal level and state. He was exonerated of all of his criminal history. He had a clean slate and that even back to when he was a kid and he was robbing people. He was given the Kennedy Award.
Wait, what year was he given the Kennedy Award?
2005, when I was in federal court fighting him for a rape. Here I was fighting him for rape, and he's standing up there receiving the Kennedy Award.
So he had to have some kind of presidential pardon plus a state pardon.
Yes.
To cover the state charges. Who was president? Clinton?
Bush.
Bush.
Yes.
Wait, do you know what the backroom dealing was on that? Do you know any information on that?
I know that the district attorney fought it tooth and nail in South Carolina and said, wait a minute, this is insane, but Reverend Al Sharpton pulled it off.
Okay, makes sense because Al Sharpton put Bush into the White House by splitting the vote by running that year, and his campaign was paid for by the GOP.
And I just sat there watching it on television, and I was just crying. I could not believe what I was seeing. And even, to this day, I'm fighting because I don't feel anybody should murder a human being. And a lot of people say to me, well, look at what he did to you. He destroyed your life. But when you've got faith in the Lord, and you know that in order to heal and go on, it ate me like a cancer for years. And I became a very bitter and a very hated, full of hate. And I just woke up one day and I said, this is eating me alive and this is not healthy. And the only way is to forgive, like God said. And it was very hard, and it took a long, long time. But I did forgive, and I don't feel like anyone has the right to murder anybody for money. I don't think murder's right. And it just is. This thing has come down to just plain truth. I mean, this is about a whole murky, sick story with a lot of lies covering it, and it just comes down to, hey, let's get all the truth out, exhume his body, and let's look at what happened for the greed, and see to it that the poor needy get their money.
Who was in the room with him when he died?
Mr. Sharpton's right-hand man.
What's his name?
Charles Bobbitt.
Okay, never
Charles
heard of him.
Bobbitt.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Let me read some commercials here real quick, and then I guess we'll wrap up. I'll give you a chance to wrap things up. Okay, good old Amanda, Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You want to email Amanda, it's demroots, with a Z, at opperamail.com. And their Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. And they're your number one source for timber construction, craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. And they can and do ship nationwide. So any kind of project, craft you want to do, a construction project, anything you think you might need, bamboo. Bamboo is one of the best products you can use for flooring and things like that. It's the cheapest and the most durable. Don't forget my GoFundMe.com. It's a GoFundMe.com //AZTJZK. And you can just Google Help Save My Family by Ed Opperman. And we go to court Tuesday, by the way, here in Nevada. We're going to court Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. over there on Pecos at the family court. So if you want to come down, come on down. If you want to pray for us at 10:30 a.m. Tuesday, please do. My daughter's really going through a lot of heartache here. And she has a show, by the way, on Saturday at 1 p.m. on cjmarsradio.com, and she's also going to be starting a show on Shake and Wake with Rick and Annie, and that'll be on, I think, either Saturday or Thursday right before my show. Hey, I want to thank, too, Christian Wallace. He has a show coming up on CJ Mars Radio on Wednesday night, Chris?
Yes.
Wednesday night.
Wednesdays at 9.
What time?
Wednesdays at 9.
9 p.m. Eastern time, which will be 6 p.m. Pacific time. And Chris, I want to thank you too, man, for donating to the GoFundMe.com AZTJZK, the Help Save My Family by Ed Opperman. And also good old Mike Gray. Mike Gray's a great guy too. He also helped and donated with the fund there too. And check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawing sets, 3D models, renderings, and more. So any kind of help you need with that kind of stuff, home plans or that kind of stuff, go to infinityhomeplans.com. Mike Ray's a great guy, and he really does support the show and helps out when we're in trouble here. Emailrevealer.com. You want to locate somebody? Let's say you got a long-lost loved one. You need to find them. It's really, really simple, and it's a quick search, too. We can do it for you. If you a simple search like just to locate somebody, if you have their name and address, their date of birth, it's pretty simple to find them. If you have somebody like an adoption situation, we can even do that. If you were an adopted kid or you had a kid you gave up for adoption, a lot of times we can find them, too. We had one case recently where this woman had her kids taken from her like 20 years ago, and we were able to locate all these kids, and they actually got together on Mother's Day, and they all called me up on Mother's Day all together at the same time there. So that's the kind of stuff we can do for you. Our newest sponsor is a village in Mexico. I am sponsored by a village of women in Mexico that make jewelry down there. They've written a book about their letters to the United States. The book is called New World Mexican Women, and it's about their letters to their men who traveled to the United States under hardship and are now living here now and sending money back to them, their sons, their husbands, their fathers, their grandfathers. And they have a website called handcrafted-ethnic-jewelry.com. And what they do is they teach you how to make authentic Mexican jewelry. This is what this town and how they support themselves, this village down there, where all their men have left pretty much. And they're down there, and this is how they support their town with this book. And by making this jewelry and by teaching people to make this jewelry, if you Google New World Mexican Women, you can find their website. The book's only $19, man, and that's a big deal for this town, then, to pick up one of these books and support artists and support art in an impoverished country down there. A link to their blog is on my blog, the Opperman Report. So go there, and you can find all of that. And they say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a Mexican village to raise an idiot like me to do this show for you every week as much as we can. I really want to thank Jacque Hollander, who is just Jacque, you've lived some life, man. You know, you really have. And I appreciate you coming on. And we've known each other for quite some time, you know. Jacque didn't just pop up out of the blue just because of this movie, you know. I've known her story. Yeah. And God bless you. So
thank you very much for allowing me to do this for you.
Well, what do you want to leave us with?
Please pray for me, as I will be praying for you, and understand that I am a human being, and that I have really been judged by the whole world because of my affiliation with James Brown, and it's very, very hard to walk in my shoes. Every day is difficult for me, and I get up sometimes and I'm not sure that I'll ever be heard, but because it's a big world, it's hard to touch everybody in the world, but just know that I am fighting for the truth, and I am in court, and I will continue on for the wishes of the poor and needy, and my heart is pure, and I love everybody.
God bless you, hon. And keep us updated on what's going on with the litigation and stuff like that. If you want to, yeah, no problem. And if you want to keep up with Jacque's story, then you go to the Opperman Report blog, and I'm going to have a link up there to Jacque and this kind of show here, and we can even do updates in the future with the story and put them up on podcasts and stuff like that because we're all over the place now. So keep us updated, okay? And we will keep you in prayer. Thank you for keeping us in prayer. Christian, thank you so much, man, for the donation, and thank you so much for all your prayers, too, as well. And good luck with the show Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Yeah, man, God bless you, brother. You got a guest coming on?
We're working on it. We're going to do what we can.
Well, maybe you can book me. Hey, maybe you can book Jacque Hollander. You can start scoping out and stealing my guests, man.
I'm saving some of my good questions. I'm just joking. I think it'll be fun, whatever we do. Yeah, Jacque, you'll be welcome.
Okay. Oh, well, thank you. I'd love to. I don't know if I can go 3 hours again, but I can try.
I don't think I could.
I hear you, Jacque. It's tough doing 3 hours, that's for sure. And Ann Francis, the beautiful Ann Francis, who is my beautiful producer, who is works on this show, guys, over 40 hours a week. You have no idea. Thank you so much, Ann. And Christoph Moses, thank you so much for all you do for us here with the technical stuff and uploading videos and the strategy sessions we have. Keith Davis, thank you so much, my friend. Keith Davis is coming on the show in a couple of weeks. He's a man of few words. I'm going to have to really get some words out of him, okay? But he's a great guy, a real street fighter, a real revolutionary, an activist, man. He's an activist for homeless. He's an activist for abused kids. A great guy. We're going to have him on with Hart Fisher, who's the host of Heart Attack. And really cool guys and from Portland up there. And we're going to be talking about all different kinds of stuff, interesting topics. Next week we got good old Steve Wick about the big story with the Cotton Club murders. And I'm going to be doing a series of so I've been doing so much research on it, and there's so much stuff there. I don't know if people realize this, but, you know, that the little tidbit I picked up this week, and I heard this from Robert Evans' mouth himself, that Robert Evans thought that Roy Radin was a member of the Rothschild family, okay? And Roy Radin, who was the murder victim in that case, owned the largest, most expensive home in the Hamptons at that time. And there's a lot of allegations about his life. So that's going to be a big show. We're going to do a bunch of shows about that. Coming up, too, we got May Pang, the girlfriend of John Lennon, the Lost Weekend, and all of her stories about that. We have her coming up as well. We're working on that. And I guess that's about it. Thank you all. Thank you, Jacque Hollander. God bless you. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Christian. And I guess we'll be saying goodbye. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.